alive! It's alive! It's alive!
I want to play a game.
Hello and welcome to the Sounds from the Grave podcast. My name is Yussef.
And my name is Vania.
And normal people scare me.
Don't they always? But anyway, hi guys.
Hello.
We're back. Another delay happened, but we're here. At this point. Anyway, so we're back with another episode. But this time it's gonna be a little bit kind of like what we did. We did something like this in the past where we rank like stuff that we like.
Yeah.
Houses? Was it houses, icons? I forget.
Houses and scare zones. I think we did both.
Houses and scare
but that
zones.
one was like really like different because there's a whole list of HHN houses. We just picked our favorite ones.
Yeah,
but this one's a little bit different because, like, for those of you that don't know, from the quote, what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be ranking our seasons, the seasons of American Horror Story in our opinions, from worst to best, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. I already know off the top of my head there's going to be some hot takes here.
So we're doing from worst to best.
Yes.
Interesting.
In our at least obviously in our opinion. So we'll talk about from 10 to 1. I know yours is going to be a little bit different because I don't know if you haven't seen the last season yet, right?
I haven't seen double feature, no.
So we'll take that out of consideration. I'll try my best not to spoil anything.
I mean, it's fine if you spoil something because I feel like if I know something of it, it'll motivate me to watch it. It's just it's very slow. So yeah,
we'll get to that
like when I watched the first episode. But anyway,
we'll get to
that.
But yeah, it's gonna be fun. So yeah, we're gonna rank them, and so we're gonna kind of do our countdown, and then kind of explain like why they're in that spot in the list, and all that kind of stuff. But outside of that, I mean, this is gonna be interesting. I'm sure we're probably gonna break into a fight because we haven't seen each other's lists, so we're going into this blind.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like I can really see Yussef because on my end he's frozen, but all I see is
it's a frozen frame.
It's a frozen mustache dude with the headphones.
But for some of you I'm going to say this now. This might be an episode that's really loud because we might get into some screaming at some point. Depending, Vania, I'm looking at you because I know you get real hype sometimes, especially when I say a hot take.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be fun.
We'll see. We'll see if something actually breaks out. Sometimes I'll just be like, huh.
Sometimes she'll get all crazy on me. So we'll see what happens. It might not.
There should be an episode is like
Vania's greatest freakouts.
Literally, don't like an episode where I just try not to insult you.
Oh God. It's gonna be the world's shortest episode. It's gonna be like a 3-second episode.
Like if I insult you, I have to give you $1 for every insult I throw.
Oh dear, oh boy. So we're gonna talk about like 3-hour-long horror movies. So I just be rich by the end of the episode.
Sure you will.
Sure, let's go with that. All right. Anyways, without further ado, I mean, we don't really have a whole lot of stuff to like start off, so I think we're just ready to just jump right into it.
Yes, for sure. Me too.
Do you want to start or should I start?
I think you should start.
Okay. All right. So we're starting off with a bang. So again, there's 10 seasons of American Horror Stories. So I'm going from 10 to 1, worst to best. Number 10, I have Freak Show.
To something to that ranking of that for sure. But it's not in my worst.
Okay.
But please elaborate why Freak Show.
I think it's just like what kills me about Freak Show is it comes right after Coven. That is such a great season, so it's incredibly hard to top that. And then in terms of the writing, I wasn't a huge fan of any of the storylines except for Twisty, but that didn't last long at all. Like it only lasted like 2-3 episodes at the most. I didn't particularly find any character interesting. Like there wasn't any character that I latched onto, and if I did, they were killed off super quick. Like like Kathy Bates' character, the bearded lady. I thought she
Yeah.
was cool. She was interesting, and then she dies. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks, appreciate that.
We
Um,
appreciate.
there was that. There was only like one. If there was like one moment that actually like got to me, it would be the whole thing with Ma Petite when she gets
Yeah, that's
kidnapped and then they find her
true.
in a jar. Like that to me was really creepy. I was like, okay, that's I again, Ma Petite is a character I liked, and what happened? They kill her. They kill her. Like
Yeah.
why? Why? Why does it? What does it have to be every character that I liked? They did something to. It was that.
Okay.
I didn't like Dandy. Yeah, he was incredible. I thought he was just super
He
annoying.
was like annoying,
He
yeah.
was
I
just like
thought
an
so
annoying,
too.
spoiled
But
brat.
I mean, I have my opinions on Freak Show
You know what
too.
that? You
But
know
the
what?
thing is, I can't say too much because
It's yeah. We'll get to your
it's on
stuff.
a
Yeah.
very similar, it's a very similar ranking.
Okay.
But
Um. Honestly, here. Okay. Here's what I'm gonna say about Dandy. If James from Revenge of the Tooth Fairy had not died, that would be Dandy.
yeah, pretty much.
Spoiled brat, never grew up, just an asshole. There was that, and then like
Period.
the other thing is like a really nitpicky thing, but it always annoys me when any show, excuse me, or movie does this. This is set in the 40s or 50s. It's set it's a period piece. I absolutely hate when they put music that does not fit the timeline. Like the first thing that they have is Elsa Mar singing David Bowie, and I'm like, stop. I don't like that. And then they have Evan Peters as like the Lobster Boy. They have him singing Nirvana, and I'm like, stop. It just breaks the immersion. I'm like, I'm already in the setting. That takes me out of it so bad.
Yeah.
I just hate when anybody does that so much. I just can't stand it. So like that's why I think it's just I don't know. I just never really got into Freak Show. It just never like sat right with me, and I didn't like any kid. Also, there's a dog behind me. Great, that's Ahsoka. I know you
My
can't see her.
dog is chilling. My dog's chilling over there.
Um, but yeah, it's I never got into it. I never found any characters fun or interesting. The storylines were just kind of eh. So that's why it's just I just couldn't get into it.
Damn. I agree.
Yeah, but what is your number 10?
So my number 10, obviously, oh, I feel like a lot of people will agree. It's weird because I haven't met people that really liked that season,
Mm-hmm.
but the majority that kind of have followed American Horror Story for a while, like we have a similar, I guess, opinion on it.
Okay.
Is Cult. Cult is
Okay.
my number 10 because
Interesting.
it's a piece of shit. It's very political. It's literally the thing is I have an endearment or like a like almost like I really like clowns.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have done something really freaky with the concept, especially with the commercial, with the promos leading up to it. I was like, yes, like this is something we need, like, creepy clowns or like a clown cult, that kind of bullshit. Like it turned a completely different way that I didn't expect. Mind you, I only watched 2 episodes of Cult because both fucking times, y'all, I'm telling you, like I had I had a phobia as a kid that I completely suppressed for the longest time until my adulthood when I watched those 2 episodes. When I watched those 2 episodes, it unlocked a trauma I did not want to live. And I was like, all right, now it's back. Hello.
Now I'm curious as to what this is.
And so uh the main character, it is only addressed I think in those 2 episodes only.
Mm-hmm.
This character has trypophobia, which is basically a fear of very deep holes, a cluster
Mm.
of deep holes. Because for me, when I was a kid, I dreamt that I had holes in my skin, and I was like trying to peel it off to try to get to like
Oh, jeez.
the deeper ends of my like dermis and all that shit. And I dreamt about it for like months, and like I dreamt of death and all that stuff. But that like like holes in my skin was definitely one of them. And the fact that they highlighted both the not only the fear, but they basically like decided to just show it on the screen. And I'm like, hello, childhood trauma. Hi, how are you?
Welcome
It's been
back.
a while. Like it was like so unnecessary. And plus I really do like the beginning episode because we see the clowns break in and all that shit.
Hmm.
But that's it. That was probably the most exciting part about that season. And obviously I didn't go ahead. I did watch the last episode when it came out, but it was still garbage and I still didn't understand it. So I was like, whatever, it is what it is. And it's also like what's crazy is that I have trypophobia,
Hmm.
but they tried to put holes on the clown's face, and that didn't scare me because it just looked too
Goofy.
unrealistic.
Mm. Okay.
Like I'm just thinking about really like realistic things, like sometimes like the rocks and pavements at theme parks. That shit gives me trypophobia if I concentrate too much on it.
Really?
Like
That's interesting.
sometimes coral sometimes
Hmm.
like they're like even like inside of a like those little pepper fruits with all like the seeds inside. That shit
Hmm.
gives me trypophobia. Like like and it just makes my skin crawl, and sometimes to the point that I want to vomit
Oh my
because
god.
it's horrible.
Jeez.
Like I said, this came from a childhood trauma because I kept dreaming about it. I didn't
Hmm.
even know where I had seen that before. Because when you dream of something, technically you have seen it before.
Yeah.
I don't know where my childhood got it from, so I was like, all right, whatever. So basically, the storyline was intriguing. It was very political, and I felt like I kept trying to watch it, and it was just nothing really came of it. And I just
Hmm.
watched 1, 2, then the last episode. And I'm like, well, this was garbage. I don't feel like watching it. So
Okay. That's valid. I mean, it's my
yeah,
ranking is definitely completely different. We'll get to that though.
yeah.
Um, but for my number 9, I have a double feature. And I
Okay.
hate that it's so high up there because the season started off so strong. Like it was so good. And the moment the double part of the double feature started, it
Mm-hmm.
immediately went downhill. And it never went back up in any way, shape, or form.
Damn.
Because the whole thing about double feature, it's literally that. Like, they broke the season in half. One half is one story, the other half is another completely different story. So it's essentially like you get 2 half seasons.
Okay.
Um, and the first half was incredible. I loved it. Like, I loved all the characters. I loved the story. Finn Wittrock was really, really good in it. Um, and I was like, okay, this is like all the characters were like great. And I loved how they like the direction that they took the story, and I thought it was really interesting. And I liked the ending of it because I thought it was actually going to lead into the second part of double feature. I was like, okay, it's just going to be a different story but set in the same universe, with with like just different characters dealing with the same situation the first characters dealt with. But no, completely different. So
Yeah.
because the first story is very similar to something like The Shining meets Salem's Lot, where it's a guy that they go to this remote location so he can focus on his writing. He has writer's block, but there's also vampires in the town, or like vampiric type creatures.
Yeah.
And the city, like the town itself, is almost like a haven for like creative types. So for like writers and performers and musicians, like it's all for them. Like it's like a town filled with that type of people. So like as the story develops, you'll notice as to like why these people are here, where these like other creatures came from. So I thought that it was really compelling, and also Macaulay Culkin was incredible in it. He was great. I wish he had more screen time though, because he was really good.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second half of a double feature is pure garbage. It's all about like aliens in the 50s, but also in modern times, and it was really stupid. It was really
Mm-hmm.
annoying. All the characters were idiots. Um, there was nothing redeeming about it, in my opinion. There was just nothing about it that I was like, oh, that's cool. Like the idea, like I was excited when it was kind of like Aliens in the 50s because I was like, oh, I like that like concept of it, of like the B movie type thing. But then that was just the intro. After that, it was a completely different thing, and it sucked. And I hated it so much.
Now you're just gonna make me want to watch the first.
Just honestly, you could just do that. You don't have to watch the second half unless you just want to get mad and frustrated.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I would just say watch the first half of it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
because that's like good stuff.
Well, you know what also makes me frustrated? My next pick is Freak Show.
Okay.
10 was called. That shit has no redeeming features. Nothing. Nada. Like that shit's out the door. Like that season does not exist in my head. Like it's like, oh, like who's called there anyway. So for my number 9 is Freak Show. I'm not gonna lie. This is a little low for me. Because I feel like there are some redeeming qualities in a Freak Show, but it still is no exception of how garbage the production side of things was like some storytelling wise. Like you said, the Le Petit story was compelling. Oh, sorry. I had the Jessica Lange role, the one that had like Elsa. She's like Elsa, the amputee. I actually enjoyed her backstory of how that came to be. And then like the sisters, the thing is like Freak Show was slow, but at the same time it was all over the place. It was trying to be at too many places at one time. Like I was like, okay, then when will the bow be actually tied and everything?
Like I was annoyed with the whole thing with Elsa because they tried to make her sympathetic or like somebody that you could relate to, but then at the end they ruined it by just having her not care at all for the freaks and just leave them be and like literally sell them off to Dandy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you spent all this time trying to make us care for her, but then you do this. So I'm like, it's stupid.
Yeah, that's why like on that side of things, I'll defend Elsa, but of course that was messed up to still sell the freaks and all this other stuff. So yeah, like I said, it's just a very slow burn. Yeah. All the stories are trying to be at too many places at one time, all within the same room, I guess, but still like it's a lot, especially with like the twins because they're always having like trouble with each other. The one thing that I remember vaguely other than that was that one of the twins wanted to separate from the other one so bad. Yep. She wanted the other one dead.
That was it.
That's all I know. Like, and then,
Yeah, it's just like there was too much going on. It was too bloated. Because you had the whole thing with Elsa, you had the whole thing with the twins, you had the thing with Dandy, you had the thing with Evan Peters trying to find who his dad was. You had the dad coming back, and he's the one selling freaks over to the other guy, to like the guy that was putting them in a museum. You have that guy's story. You have the whole thing with Emma Roberts. So like there was so much crap going on that it's just nothing happened. Like they spent so much time building everything and then nothing interesting happened.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's a no from me, dog.
Yeah, it was bad. It was just bad.
Yeah.
But moving on to my number 8. At number 8, I have Apocalypse.
Oh, I'm a fight.
There we go. I was waiting for it. I was like, waiting for it.
That low?
I was waiting for it. There was only 2 things I liked about Apocalypse: the Coven coming back, and
that should be the only exception.
And Langdon. I liked Langdon as the Antichrist.
Okay.
But not him.
Those were the 2 best things. That was basically it.
Because everything else sucked.
Okay.
I did not give a shit about Android Kathy Bates. I did not give a crap about eczema or like twisted up spine. I forgot her name. Jeez. I don't know her name. I can't remember it. And I there was like none of the other characters like you only cared about the characters that you had seen before. Because none of the other characters were compelling at all. They were stupid and boring. But I like the Coven coming back. I did like that whole thing with like how they treated the warlocks, like the male magic users. I thought that was interesting too.
I felt like I was watching Sabrina. The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina when it was good. Sorry. Let
And
me be clear on that.
I liked Langdon's rise to power. So like him, being sought out by the Satanic Church, joining a Satanic Church, and like finding out that he's the Antichrist. Like I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with like the two hackers, like Evan Peters and the other guy that were just and Billy Eichner that were just stupid hackers that were also Satanists. And like they're the ones that created the apocalypse, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
This makes no sense. And also the ending sucks. Because they build up all this power for Billy Lord's character, where she's like, like you're imagining this like epic fight between this new witch that has like a bunch of power and the Antichrist, and all they do is go to the past and hit him with a car.
Yeah,
Multiple times.
it had a very anticlimactic.
Yeah,
thing.
you should have had. Like,
I was like,
yeah. I was like, really? Like that's how you're gonna end it? You're just gonna hit him with a car before he becomes he figures out he's the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, you could have gone so much. You could have done so much more with that.
Yeah.
Like, the reason it's not as bad as like Freak Show and Double Feature is because of the Coven and because of certain story beats. But if it didn't have those things in there, this would have been like way like number 10.
That's fair.
I didn't like Apocalypse that much. Like it's like the one that I binged the most just because I wanted to get past it.
Damn.
Because I just wanted to get out of it.
Freak Show was the one that I knew I really had to sit down because I couldn't get through the episodes.
Freak Show was a test of like my willpower. I was like, I had to brute force my way through Freak Show. And it was awful.
What's crazy is that when I attempted to first watch American Horror Story, I tried to start through Freak Show because that was the latest season happening at the time. Mm-hmm. But then, like, at that point, I was like, damn, I don't think I can get into American Horror Story if it's this boring. And then somebody said, well, start somewhere else. So I started somewhere else. And then I went back, started all over, and then...
Yeah, when I started getting into it, it was around the time Roanoke was coming out. And also because, like, that's when they did the whole thing for HHN. I was like, okay, I should probably watch it just to, like, get the background for it. Because I tried to watch it before. Like, I got up to season 3. I got up to Coven, and I was like, okay. I started watching Freak Show, and I was like, I'm done. I can't.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, I got to get into it again. I got to brute force my way through Freak Show, and it got better after that for me. Like, once I got past Freak Show, I was like, okay, I can watch the rest of this. But anyway, what was your number 8?
My number 8 is technically replacing my substitute for a double feature. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be American Horror Stories.
Okay.
Because it is.
I didn't even include stories in my ranking just because it's like a spin-off thing, so that's why I didn't really count it.
Like the thing is that the first 2 episodes are so meshed together already that I feel like they could have had a very solid season out of it.
Yeah.
If they would have continued it. But then we strive off to other stories, which is fine. But it's like
yeah.
Especially
like they had some good episodes in there. Like they had some good stories. Like I would say the 3 best episodes, at least that I liked, were the one with the drive-in. With like the movie that like makes people kill each other. The one with like the bros that get killed by Santa Danny Trejo. Like in their party mansion. I thought it was just interesting. It was different. And then the one with Billy Lord where she keeps thinking that she sees a demon and that's like it's coming after her baby. The one that's like very kind of feels like Rosemary's Baby.
Yussef, I need you to go back through every single episode we've talked about. You know how many times you've mentioned Rosemary's Baby?
Too many times.
They need an IV.
Which is hilarious because I've only seen that
every fucking shot.
I've only seen that movie once.
Yeah, like every time we do a podcast somewhere, not every time, sorry. Some point in some episode, but too frequent than often, it's like Rosemary's Baby. Goddamn, all right, well.
I don't even know why.
At this point, we might as well cover it. Shit! Like,
we should at some point. I'll just need to rewatch it because I haven't seen the movie in like 8 years.
I don't think I've seen it at all, but it
It's
sounds
not bad.
familiar though.
It's not bad, but
Yeah.
it's just been a while. But yeah, like outside of that, like I didn't like the Murder House episodes. I thought they were stupid.
Right. I liked them. It's a different take. It's not a different take. Sorry. It's very hard to explain.
Hmm.
But I liked the Murder House, but it's not as clean as it should have because I feel like if they would have gone with an entire season, I feel like it would have gone better.
Yeah,
Especially since we go episode 1, 2, and then the very last episode, it like
it's like the
basically
third
goes
part to the
back.
yeah.
The third part, I'm like, dude, at that point, you might have just done one solid story of a
Yeah.
spin-off, and
Plus
then
that
that's
last
it. Call
episode
it a day.
was so garbage with the like the video game Murder House thing. Where like
Yeah,
at the end it's all a video game, but at the same time it isn't, and I'm like, this is so stupid.
I was like, stop
Why?
trying to be stay alive.
Who
You're not
approved
stay alive.
who approved the script?
Someone
Ryan Murphy, what did you do?
or interns. They're like American Horrors or a spin-off written by interns. Go.
Written by interns, Jesus.
But anyway, that's my number 8.
Okay.
Replace double features with since I haven't watched it yet. But yeah.
So at my number 7, I have Roanoke. This one's like okay, so like we're
Right,
not
so 8. So we both did 8, right?
yes, so 8 for me was
Yeah,
Apocalypse, for
7
you was
is
Stories.
Roanoke for me too.
Okay. Yeah, and
Roanoke.
now this isn't I didn't hate Roanoke, it's not a bad season.
Mm-hmm.
The other there are just other things I like better in other seasons.
Yeah, for sure.
But Roanoke, I like that it was different. I like that it went for the whole like found footage slash like my haunting adventure type thing.
It felt like I was watching a haunting, and I was like,
Yeah, that's what I
and I
liked.
used
Though.
to
It
watch
was
that shit a
different.
lot. I was like, damn,
Yeah.
like this is a throwback. It was weird, but I
Mhm.
liked it. Like,
Yeah, I was surprised I liked it as much as I did because you know, and most people know that I'm not a fan of like found footage stuff.
yeah,
But I liked the story of this. I actually really liked like the second half of it when they brought in like the original people and then like the actors that played them and put them together. I thought that
yeah,
was really interesting. It was really cool. It had a nice little twist. So like I appreciated that.
yeah.
And then like the Kathy Bates was just really good in it again. Just like
Mm-hmm.
seeing her, especially when she like loses all self control and just turns into that character again because she went too method with it. I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
For me, it's like the documentary style, and also like the whole like it felt like urban kind of not urban. What's it called? Like folklore cryptids
Hmm.
meets Texas Chainsaw
A little
Massacre
bit of
with
that,
like the
yeah,
hauntings and all that
yeah.
stuff because of like ancient relics, and then some guy just became unfaithful and he starts fucking Lady Gaga in the middle of the fucking forest, like like I cannot believe they sort of had that
Mm.
scene in HHN.
It reminded me a little bit of The Witch.
Yeah, it was very
It's
you know
very folklore, yeah.
yeah, folklore. If it's like the ritual meets like the witch
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
Blair Witch
think
Project
yeah,
and
it had
a
similar.
haunting. It's a lot of mixtures
Yeah,
of a
it
lot
took a
of
lot.
like
It took a lot of different aspects and kind of blended them together. Like some parts worked, some parts didn't work at all.
yeah.
But for the most part, it was enjoyable. I had a fun time watching it.
The only thing that I did not enjoy was that one guy that turns into like a black suit spider looking. I was like, that's freaky. That's
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Jesus.
unnatural.
Yeah.
That's some shit of nightmares. I don't think that's even a creature. That's like someone's like what's it like? Fever dream.
Yeah.
Like that's someone's fever dream. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, like there was that, and there were like some of the characters I just didn't love, like Sarah Paulson. That was her name. Like not Sarah Paulson's character, but like the person that she was playing. So like
Which one?
So so you know how she was pretending she was acting as this one lady.
Yeah.
That lady, I didn't like her.
Okay.
She was just
Yeah.
really annoying.
Sure.
But
I mean,
everybody else was passable. They weren't bad.
yeah. But I did like, that there's like the celebrity mentality versus
Yeah.
people who've actually done like been through shit. So that was a unique take. I liked Roanoke, and then ever since I watched Roanoke, I was like, huh. My fiance, my best friend, one of my best friends live in Virginia. We should all take a trip to Roanoke just because.
Go for it.
Yeah. I'm surprised that Roanoke was as short as it was. It was only 10
It was a
episodes.
shorter season, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, it was enjoyable. Like, I think I like that it was a little shorter, too, because, like, it didn't... I feel like if they put too many episodes, it would have just dragged. It would have gotten too slow-paced. Because even then, Roanoke had, like, some slow moments in it.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I'm all for, inspiration from other films, but the whole hillbilly thing, I was like, damn, how many people got to mimic Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
See, I was all
Those are
for it. I
twisted
was like, hell
family. I
yeah.
was like,
Keep giving me cannibalistic hillbillies all day long. I love them.
that's all. Like, I feel like that's a lot of things right now. I was like, this stuff, like,
Yeah, they keep reusing
there's the like House of a Thousand Corpses, and there's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then there's this, then like,
And then
I
there's the
feel like
ones that
there's
are from
a
Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods,
The zombie hillbillies.
Zombie Hillbillies. That's the thing. Like, I actually had like the urge to watch Cabin in the Woods because I kind of forgot how it went. So I kind of want to rewatch it.
I love that movie. It's a great horror movie.
Yeah, but I just watched. I just call it a very spin off of 13 Ghosts. It's just 13 Ghosts, but a little bit more like modern and all twisty and shit. But
It's not
that's
a
what I
bad,
called
it's
it.
not a bad comparison. It is similar to 13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
So okay, so then we had the same for number 7. We both had Roanoke.
Yeah.
So then at my number 6, and I know you're about to fight me. At number 6, I have 1984.
Goodbye. Me about to hit the hang up button.
What?
Why?
As much as I liked the characters, as much as I liked the vibe of 1984, I kind of got bored about halfway through. Like, once I figured out, because like I figured out the twist like a little too quickly for my taste. Like, with the whole thing of like the slasher guy wasn't really the slasher guy; he got blamed for it. I kind of saw that coming as soon as like they showed the one like the final girl that survived everything. I was like, oh no, she's the killer.
Yeah.
So like that kind of took away some of it, and also the whole thing with Richard Ramirez. I feel like it keeps conflicting with me for Hotel. Because how in Hotel they used to have like the yearly Halloween dinner with like all the famous serial killers, and he was in there. But then it's shown in 1984 that he made a pact with the devil where he just is immortal. So how, and he literally comes back to life, and all the people at the camp just kill him repeatedly. So he wasn't a ghost. So then how did he go to the hotel?
Didn't they show that at the end? I forgot. I feel like they showed something like
No,
that.
because he just kept coming back to life. Literally, he spent all eternity in the camp where he would just come back to life and somebody would kill him. So I'm like, that just threw a wrench into Hotel.
I don't know.
For me.
There's like something in me that says like that. Like, I feel like I watched a scene where he just casually shows up at the hotel and just then that's when he kind of. Not like that's his new home, basically.
Yeah, but because like my whole thing was like, so because I know that everybody knows that
if not, that's a theory I made up in my head, and it looks really realistic to me.
Because everybody knows that sure they're all separate seasons, they're all like separate stories, but they're all part of the same universe.
Yeah.
So like that for me just like changes, like breaks the universe a little bit. So that's why I was like, come on, you know better.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, it wasn't a bad season. I'm not saying it was. I hated it. It was just that like, I just saw everything coming a mile away. I knew how the story was gonna end, and then the whole thing with Richard Ramirez just kind of like didn't. I feel like Richard Ramirez didn't even need to be there.
But the thing is, like, he was, I don't know, I guess
Like he
they
could have
were
just been replaced.
trying
He could have been replaced with any.
to.
Just like they could have made a new serial killer or like any other serial killer.
But the thing is, like, they try to tie it something similar to real life that has happened. That's what
Hmm.
the pattern that I see with American Horror Story all the time, especially with like Murder House, which that is a real thing. It's
Yeah.
not the same house, but it's a real thing.
Hmm.
And then there's like, Coven. Obviously, that witches are real. Like, I don't know why y'all double thinking this shit. And then there's, of course, the history of like the serial killers, like, how there's like serial killers that like the Zodiac
Hmm.
killer, and then we have in Hotel we have the Ten Commandments killer. It's like inspirations of something based
Yeah.
off of it, and like, like, and then there's also like, I feel like Roanoke also plays a lot, kind of like a role that they could have done something like a Salem witch trials, but instead, like, it's like a lore within Virginia rather than
Hmm.
up in the witchy part. It's more like a folklore, like haunting, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's like another side of the state that's not like Massachusetts kind of
Hmm.
thing. So I feel like there's just a lot like that they try to tie to reality, which is why I didn't mind that Richard Ramirez was in it. It was just like, I didn't. I will say this: Richard Ramirez in 1984. I didn't realize it was Richard Ramirez until, honestly, there. So we had an episode where I covered Skin and like with the
Hmm.
music that had to do with horror and all that stuff. So they have a song called Richard Ramirez, and they base it a lot on serial killers
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. Obviously, not praising them, but it's like showing you terrors that, getting into the killer's mind. Like, this is like sinister stuff that happens every day. So I watched that video and I was like, wait, didn't American Horror Story have a similar concept? So I didn't even know that was Richard Ramirez when I was watching 1984. So I was like, wait, why is things completely different? Like, then, like, what actually is historically written rather than just like the Satanists that fucking want to
Yeah.
kill people. So the stuff when he fucking like killed women, followed them to their apartment, that kind of thing. So it's like it was conflicting.
Exactly. Like that's the thing too. Like when you bring in a real life person into that, you have to be really careful as to how you treat it. And I feel like they just
Yeah.
fucked that up completely.
And I know that a lot of people who are into like true crime,
Hmm.
like they said that, American Horror Story tackling something as Richard Ramirez, like, especially, and like almost like glamorizing it in a
Hmm.
way, that if they feel like it's too soon because it's still like a very sensitive topic for people who actually were implemented fear
Yeah.
on Richard Ramirez back in the 80s. So it's like,
Because like when you look at it like something like the dinner scene from Hotel, it's serial
yeah,
killers that have been dead already. Like that, it wasn't like they weren't a major part of the story. It
yeah,
was just like a one time thing.
mm-hmm.
So like that was treated with a modicum of like, okay, like we're gonna do it this way and that's it. Like we don't have to involve him and make him part of the main story because then it's gonna conflict with like the real life accounts of what this person did,
Yeah,
which is what I think is what got messed up with 1984.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
outside of
that's
that, I
the
mean, the
only
characters
thing.
were
Because I feel
fun.
like even though like the Richard Ramirez, I feel like wasn't even involved in the story at all. He was just there.
Yeah, he was just kind of there.
Yeah, just to be the hot
Yeah,
hookup for the
for Billy
other
Lord.
one. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but and yeah, I don't know. I just like some of the characters I didn't love.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the vibe of the 80s, and of course it was just, like during the height of like the whole 80s obsession. Like Horror Nights was doing a whole synthwave theme at the time. There was Stranger Things going on at the same time, so it was 80s was like everywhere. So like
Yeah.
they were just capitalizing on that too.
Fair. That's fair.
Everybody was like, "You remember the 80s synthwave?"
Yeah. It's such an aesthetic. That was like I based
That was a
off my
whole
room.
aesthetic for like a bunch of people for a bit,
Yeah.
you
It was like,
included.
My room was literally all 80s. I mean, it is still kind of 80s. It's just like, I don't know. I keep changing my room
Mm.
design around because I want to have everything happening at the same time, but not trying not to make it look like a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think the next one for me
So
is
you're number 6 at this point.
6.
Uh-oh. Well, I feel like I'm not gonna like this. You're taking too long. Stop building suspense.
I'm gonna have to say Murder House. The thing
Okay,
is
you know what?
like,
I don't disagree, and my ranking on it is a little bit lower. But I
yeah.
mean, it's close enough to yours, so I'm like, I can understand that. If you had said something else, I would have, I would have fought. But
No,
no,
no.
I understand that. It's like
I know.
it's close to where my ranking is, so you're good.
Yeah. So Murder House. Well, obviously it was the hype for. Obviously, that's how American Horror Story started.
Yeah.
But like it is good because it's still like the haunting of ghosts, basically stereotypical things that happen in America.
Mm-hmm.
We're also like talking about like the famous DeFeo murders and anything that happens around America with hauntings and houses and shit. But it was a kind of like a little slow burn, but I get it because it was like the premiere and they were trying
Mm-hmm.
to intrigue as much people as possible. So I definitely can see the appeal to it, but and then especially with like the latex person was a little random placing for me.
Okay, I
I
can see that.
still didn't like I didn't fully still understand where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of like, well, fine, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, it's still a good story. Don't get me wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
mind you, when I got into American Horror Story, it didn't start through Murder House. So I started somewhere completely different. So
I personally like Murder House. Um, I'm
I
not gonna
mean,
get too
I'm
many.
not
I'm
saying
not.
it's bad.
Yeah.
It was good. It's just it's just the stereotypical thing that you
Mm-hmm.
say, like especially when you're trying to pull in an audience to a show that's completely new. Playing it's almost like playing it safe.
Yeah.
Which like there's nothing wrong with that, but
Okay.
you know.
But yeah, in terms of Murder House, I liked the story of it. I kind of like the slow burn aspect of it because every time they did reveal something, it was really really interesting. So you're like, okay, I gotta watch what happens now.
Yeah.
Um, the characters were really good. They were really well written. They had really good like layers to them. Um, except for I think like the weakest aspect of it was Ben and was just Ben. Period. Like the dad.
Yeah.
Just because like he was such an asshole and such an idiot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then I like again like I just like how it revealed everything, and I liked how you saw how the characters got themselves into those situations, especially the ghosts. Like when you see like how the ghost became the ghost, it's really interesting.
Yeah. I agree.
But that's what I'm gonna
That's
say
just,
on it
all
for now, because I'm gonna talk a little bit more when I get to where it is in my ranking.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think
But
it's your
but yeah,
turn.
no, your ranking is accurate. It's a good ranking for it. It's not like
Yeah.
yeah, it's not it's not a great season. It's not an awful season. It's like right in
Mm.
the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So
things can be improved, but it's pretty okay.
moving on to the top five though. Um, I'm gonna get punched in the face next time you see me. But at number 5, I have Cult. I actually
But it's way
really
too high up. That is
I
way too high.
really
Someone
enjoyed Cult.
set that shit on fire. You lefty.
I really
Righty?
enjoyed
Lefty?
Cult.
Okay, make America great
Um,
again. I see you. What the fuck?
so when I was saying bringing in real world aspects and treating them with like enough of it to tie it into your story, that's how it's done in my opinion. Because there's the real world horror of it, of literally this terrible person who got elected president and the horrible shit he inspired and brought to light. Like that for me was really creepy. Like how it's very much rooted in reality and what America was going through at the time. So like that for me was why it was really scary. It was effective. It was creepy. It was scary for me because this is stuff that was actually happening. Obviously, American Horror Story like super exaggerated it and took it to like a whole new level, but it's still very much rooted in reality. And you know me, I love when horror gets a little too real. That's when, for me, it gets creepy.
I can make a little like reality for you. Ooh, taxes.
Ooh,
Ooh,
taxes.
voting ballot. Ooh,
Ooh,
campaigns. Ooh.
You know what I mean, though? The whole cult thing of like people literally just following blindly like sheep just because somebody agrees with what they think, instead of actually taking the time to reach an informed
Cheeto.
decision. Yes, Cheetos. And I mean, Evan Peters' fucking Kai Anderson is ridiculous. He was so captivating in this, and he was so out there and creepy and weird. And I every time he was on screen, I was like drawn to him because I was like, he's such a good actor. He's doing such a good job in this. Like, obviously, I wasn't like drawn to him as a character because his character was awful. He was terrible.
Yeah.
But just like how awful and terrible he was and how well Evan Peters played it was interesting to me.
That's fair.
Yeah, there was that. Again, the real world cult aspect of it. The whole thing when he started relating it to real life cults, like the whole Waco, Texas thing, the whole poison Kool-Aid thing. Like, you saw a lot of similarities there with those real life cults and this cult of his. The only thing I didn't like about the season was the god awful theme, like the opening. I hated the trumpets in that so much. It was so bad. I was like,
fair.
stop, why? Yeah. And I liked the whole paranoia and like terror that Sarah Paulson's character went through outside of her phobia. Of like seeing these clowns and seeing these people in like dressed in these masks and stuff, like her thinking that she was going crazy was really interesting to watch too.
I can do that and show up to your house.
Just started screaming.
Because if you want reality shit, you don't even need American Horror Story for that shit. It's like, oh, it happens everywhere.
But yeah, I just thought it was really well made in terms of the timing for it. And even now, like when I was watching it, obviously like at that point Trump had been taken out of office already, Biden had been elected. So still, but seeing that, you still see the repercussions of all that.
Yeah, that's
so like
fair.
still seeing that in Cold, you were like, Jesus Christ, like this is
But
something.
then again, I didn't go through all of it. I just watched 1, 2, last one. I'm like, I'm done.
Because I was like, this is something that we're legit still dealing with. So.
Yeah.
But what do you have for your number 5?
My number 5 is Apocalypse.
I don't agree at all. I don't like that.
Oh, fuck off. Well, fuck off, suck my dick. It is what it is. Apocalypse is not my number 5 because, of course, fucking Coven.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll say Landon. Fucking Landon. But other than that, I appreciated, like, just the... And also, I'm a slut. A slut for anything that's very apocalypse related.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it was like the perfect mixture of everything that I ever wanted. Like, it's just like, yes. But like, obviously, besides all the other side stories, I agree they were not as compelling. But anything like that had to deal with the apocalypse, like Landon, and especially like with his little godsend fucking, I was like, ah! It's peak. And obviously, the Coven coming back, and then we have like the iconic. I was like, I'm back, bitches. Like, it's great. I love it. It's the fact that we got to see Coven again, and I know for a solid goddamn fact, if it wasn't for Coven, we still wouldn't be in this shit. American Horror Story would still not be going on.
Yeah.
Because I started watching American Horror Story through Coven, and I was like, holy shit, this is good. So then I went back to Murder House, back to Asylum, then Freak Show, fucking chewed the fuck through it. Like, I was like, I don't like this, but here we go. Then I went to Hotel. Cult was 6, right? No.
Roanoke was 6. Cold was 7.
Roanoke. Cult, who is he? Apocalypse, and then 1984 was the latest one. And
And then
stories.
double feature after that.
Double feature, but I only watched one episode. But it's not because I didn't want to watch it; it's because it's literally a slow burn. But other than that, yeah, it's just Apocalypse, everything. Just the witches are back. Like the character, I thought wasn't gonna like Landon when it first started out, but obviously you see like motives, you see like just the different sides, and the wizard part.
Mm-hmm.
Was definitely like what added on. I was like, oh shit, like they didn't even mention wizards in Coven, so it was like a nice little add-on. I will agree, I did not like the ending. It was a little bit anticlimactic, but other than that, like just the apocalypse like feel of deserted people in fucking gas masks like towards the end too. I was like, yo, like that. And I worked in a trail that was the theme. Like I am a slut. And I'm surprised that I haven't watched Mad Max because I know that shit is like apocalypse heaven.
They're so
I should
good.
like I love that aesthetic.
They're like the quintessential like post-apocalyptic movies.
Yeah,
you gotta watch this. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just like outside of the Coven and Langdon, like nothing else was interesting to me. Because even the post-apocalypse doesn't the apocalypse doesn't even play that huge of a role. It's just like everything leading up to it. But the actual like you don't see people like actually trying to survive the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't care about these people locked in this underground vault because they're boring.
Yeah. I feel like that didn't move much, but when they did come out, it was pretty fucking sick. I was like, all right. Look at all that dust and radiation. I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, but at my number 4, I have Murder House.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I like Murder House a lot. I liked a lot. Like I said, I like the characters a lot. I like the story of it. Again, I liked how they would go back and forth between like flashbacks and that kind of stuff. Especially when you have the doctor that would perform the experiments and the abortions in his basement.
Yeah.
Like that was really creepy. Like when he creates like the monster child and all that kind of stuff. The infantata, that's what it was called, the infantata. Seeing like the relationship between the gay couple that lived there before the Harmons moved in.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff was interesting, and especially it felt very Sixth Sense as well, where like you don't know that these people are ghosts until like later on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. And Jessica Lange was just amazing in this. Like this is one of her best performances, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I'm glad that American Horror Story has a franchise that they can reuse actors and they're like completely okay with it, because at that point I don't know if they signed the contract, but it's almost like a part of the brand and their mark on something, especially if they knew that this was going to be such a hit.
Yeah, like I freaking miss Jessica Lange in American Horror Story. Like she hasn't been there since Freak Show, I think.
No,
she wasn't in Roanoke. She definitely wasn't in Cold. I don't think she was in Apocalypse unless it was like a flashback sequence with her. Oh no, yeah, she was in Apocalypse. She came back for Apocalypse when she was Tate's mom. But then after that, she hasn't been seen in anything else.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But again, and some of the other characters like Tate, and I mean, he was really compelling. He was really creepy. When you finally find out what it is that he had done, like completely changes how you feel about him.
Yeah.
Which is just terrifying. Like every time I hear that whistling, I'm like, I don't like that. Please don't. That's just weird. Creepy. Yeah. But yeah, what do you have for your number 4?
I am either gonna get like a hammer over the head or something. I don't know. Anyway, number 4. I think this is number 4.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to count the ones that I didn't do because I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, yes. Yes. Now I know. Anyways, so my number 4 is Asylum because
Okay.
Asylum was my favorite season for the longest time. It was my favorite season
I love
because
Asylum.
I love the concept of like asylums and all that stuff, and especially like the way that we get introduced to all those different characters and the goddamn song. The one thing I will say,
Dominique,
the
Nika,
fall,
Nika.
the downfall of that season was the goddamn song, which is weird because I know this is totally unrelated, guys. I'm so sorry, but I only know that song because of Asylum, right?
Hmm.
And then Bob Kotak, our former boss when we were interns, I was in the car with him and he had that radio, and then I started
Oh my
singing along,
god.
and then he's like, "How do you know this song?" I'm like, And I was like this kind of music, and I'm like, I'm not gonna tell him it's from a
Oh
horror.
no.
Yeah, he knew the song too, and he started singing along, and I'm like, oh god,
Uh-oh.
oh god.
Oh no.
So
That's
basically,
crazy.
one of our former bosses at our internship somehow, because he really likes like 1960s
Yeah.
music, so that's all he listens to on his radio. And the Dominique song came out, and I couldn't help but sing it because that's all they play the fucking season. But other than that,
That's funny.
I do like the set design, and the costuming
Hmm.
was very ingenious. The
Oh yeah.
makeup was on point. I really do like, that we go from a very serious moment where like we see them kind of like they're sanity, but they're not sanity. Especially like when you see Jessica Lange, even like it's like, oh, like the name game, and then it's like changes very drastically. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can tell how insane this woman is.
Hmm.
I was like, oh damn, like, you know, go off. I mean, it was a catchy song, but it was also very annoying for a while. But
Yeah.
because that's all they played in that Howling Hornets queue too. It's like fuck. But yeah, so Asylum is pretty
I
up
can,
there.
yeah, it's a great season. I liked Asylum a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, the characters were great. I loved Jessica Lange, Evan Peters in this. Sarah Paulson was great.
mm,
Um, I like Oliver Cromwell, Dr. Arden. The
yeah,
he was really creepy. Um, I'll get to some of the stuff that I didn't love about that season. Like I still have a really high ranking of it. There are a couple things that like stopped it from like being higher on my list. But I'll get to those in
yeah.
a second. Um, but for my número tres, I have Hotel. I vibed so hard to
Really?
Hotel.
Why is it that low?
I
Oh my
vibed so hard to like the aesthetic of Hotel. I love the look of everything in the hotel. I love the just the looks that these characters were serving up. Everybody was just so fashionable in this. Everybody just looked so good.
Like Hotel was like the season that I watched the most, like repeatedly,
Hmm.
because I loved it so much. And because it's like, I don't know, it's just you can't. I know that a lot of people's like, oh, it's glamorized horror, but it's like, but the thing is, like, they touch on like real inspirations in this.
Hmm.
What's crazy to me is that hotel is a fucking restaurant. It's a real life restaurant. It's
Hotel
not a
Cortez.
hotel. So yeah,
That's
it's like
crazy.
in California, you can actually walk in, eat there, and
I
it's like
want to
a
go there now.
hotel, but but like not really a hotel, but it is what it is.
Yeah, but I like
Um,
that. The only thing I didn't love was the whole thing with like Lady Gaga. Like that was, I think that was like the weakest storyline for me. But I like the whole thing with the Ten Commandments killer. I like the whole thing with Liz Taylor and with um Kathy Bates' character trying to like redeem her son.
Yeah.
and everything like that.
That's fair.
Obviously, like I said, Liz Taylor is probably one of the best characters in all of American Horror Story, if not the best character in American Horror Story.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I like the whole. I really liked Evan Peters as like the 1930s serial killer with like this is the 1930s like voice.
Yeah.
It's very Great Gatsby, and I loved it. It's like, hello there, Mrs. Moneypenny.
I mean,
I don't know
even though
why I
Great
thought it was
Gatsby,
great.
it's like very 1920s,
Yeah,
but
or like
there's
20s, 30s, like
some of
around like
that.
that era. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was cool. Um, and I like the music of it. I like that they blended a lot of like really nice, like deep, dark music to it. Some goth music in there. I mean, the season literally starts with characters walking into the hotel, and the first song they play is Joy Division, and I'm like, I'm in. I'm sold. I'm sold. Give me to say less.
Say less.
Yeah, and something interesting too that I noticed in this season. There's like a really prevalent theme of motherhood throughout this entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have Kathy Bates trying to save her son's soul, essentially. So,
Yeah.
like, that's a mother doing whatever she can for her child. You have
Lady
the
Gaga wanted children.
Lady Gaga wanting children, wanting to be a mother. And then you have the police officer's wife, who literally makes her children vampires to save their lives.
Yeah.
So, like, that's like three, like, motherhood related things, like, throughout that whole season, which is really interesting. So it was an interesting like way to like push the story forward.
Yeah.
Plus,
I
those
agree.
vampire kids was I loved how they like spread the vampirism to like other parts to like school where they just
Oh,
all killed their own parents and that kind of stuff.
I was like, oh,
And they
well,
like
we have
lived they all lived together like, in like a random house.
yeah, that's very not Children of the Corn, but I feel like there was a similar concept like
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
There was a movie that came out like that, but I forgot which one it was.
I don't know.
Like of like kids killing their parents, like all that stuff. But anyway, um,
But yeah, that was my number 3. I thought it was great. I liked
eh.
it.
Well, for me, number 3, even though it will always be near and dear to my heart, um, this is the one that got me into American Horror Story is Coven.
Okay.
Coven, it was a fucking ride. It
It
was
is a ride.
everything. You just can't take your eyes off the screen because there's so much going on, but you understand it in a
Mm-hmm.
way. Because like you have like the girl who has special powers, and then she accidentally sleeps with her boyfriend and accidentally kills him when she's riding on his dick. And then she's invited into this house, and she meets a group of witches, which either hate her or love her. And then she's raised by like a supreme, and then there's like all this battle between witches and voodoo and all this other stuff, and it's
Plus, you
like
got witch hunters.
so witch hunters, and then like there's bitches and witches,
Bitches and witches.
like just getting burned alive, and then
Yep.
people coming back from the dead.
And
Like
Stevie
there's
Nicks.
so much. And Stevie Nicks, that very much that the hippie witch that she literally is so zen. I mean, she
Yeah.
worries sometimes, but she's so fucking zen. I feel like that's one of the more memorable seasons that
Oh,
I could
absolutely.
watch. Like I could watch over and over
Mm-hmm.
and never get tired. Because it has such a rich, I don't know, like witch culture, and I feel like that's when, ever since Coven came out, that's when ever since The Craft, and there's like almost like a revival of like witches or like
Yeah.
people who like witchcraft and all this other stuff. So I feel like that was like such an awakening
Mm-hmm.
moment for people. At least for me, like I feel like there's a lot of people who kind of like all of a sudden started dressing like them, kind of thing. So
I think
it's an aesthetic for
yeah, I
sure.
think like what it helped to do is open the door to exactly more of what witchcraft actually is in terms of like traditional values that they have and like belief systems and that kind of stuff, as opposed to just like, oh, it's just a person with a pointy hat and a flying broom.
Yeah, it's worship
Like it,
Satan apparently.
yeah, like it really opened up the doors and like showed people more about witchcraft itself.
Yeah, for sure.
and give a lot of interesting background on everything. Plus, the characters were all really nice. The stories were great. Um, I mean, we gotta talk about Angela Bassett as the motherfucking voodoo queen
She was so
because
good. Oh my gosh, I was
holy
so in
shit.
love. Like I was like, the thing is, I know this sounds kind of bad of me. Like, I'm just saying, and kind of bad in the sense that, damn, I wish like my Taina blood or like my Puerto Rican blood really be making me darker because you know how much Santeria voodoo shit I could be pulling off right now. Like, but I know I can't wear that because people think I'm white and they're just like, oh, you're just like
You're
that
appropriating.
discriminating kind of thing. You're appropriating. I'm like, no, like he is a real thing. Voodoo shit is a real thing. But I can't get away with that. But
Mm,
still, like that is her entire character, her entire essence, her entire like just
everything.
even like the way that she dresses, like the way that she talks, the way that that she wanted to find solutions, whether to get along with the witches, try to be against them. Like everything was such a solid performance that you can
Hmm.
actually tell where the story was going, where the conflict was, where the confusion was. Oh my god,
Yeah.
such a
It was
cool
it was
ass fucking
a,
character.
a bunch of great characters per a really well written story for the entire season. Like nothing felt out of place. Like nothing felt like it was shoehorned in
Hmm.
for any reason.
Yeah, even though Coven felt really long, it was. I mean,
For me,
it is one of
it
the
just felt like
longer.
it
It was one of the
was like what
longer
13
seasons.
episodes I think.
13.
But for me, it
Yeah,
didn't even feel long because I was just so into it. I was just like, I can watch the next episode right now. Or I can watch the next episode right now.
yeah,
Yeah, it was great.
yeah.
Um,
Coven.
so we're getting near the end. At number 2, I have Asylum.
Interesting.
For a long time, Asylum was my all-time favorite season. But once I like got back, because I've seen Asylum like 3 times, I think, and for a while it was. But like once I got more into Coven, that changed. Because if you don't know at this point, Coven isn't my number one, but we'll get to that in a second.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, there was so much I loved about Asylum. I loved the setting of it. I loved because I've always been interested in like really creeped out by those types of places like asylums like that. They've
Yeah,
always freaked
I've
me out a
always
little
wanted to
bit.
go to one.
Um, like mental health facilities, like those types of mental health facilities. Obviously, like now they're completely different. They're much more humane. They're safer. But like in that era, like everything was just like shock them and lobotomize them and see if that works. And
Yeah,
like I said, the characters were great. I was genuinely impressed by how well written a lot of these characters were. Like Kit, whatever his name was, Evan Peters' character,
yeah,
Kit. Like his whole thing of like I gotta prove my innocence, but I literally cannot do this because I'm trapped in an asylum because people think I'm a serial killer.
yeah.
That
Then,
whole yeah with Bloody
Lena
Face.
Winter was the journalist, and then she was she was a
She got
lesbian,
rich
and
off
then
of all of that
they
stuff.
wanted to have I think they tried to do the reverse therapy on her too, and
Yeah, like the
it
conversion
was a
therapy.
lot.
It was
Yeah,
yeah,
conversion.
it gets into some like dark territory for sure. Um, you have the whole thing with like Dr. Arden and him trying to create like super soldiers and like experimenting on people and that kind of stuff. And the whole possession thing with Sister Mary Margaret, where she legit gets possessed by the devil.
Yeah, that shit
Like
was
that, the
crazy.
asylum was just such a place of pure evil that it was just way so much to handle. And seeing like the downfall of Jessica Lange's character and like seeing her go from this hard ass abusive nun to receiving a taste of her own medicine, being abused herself, having to stay in that asylum for God knows how long.
Wasn't Stevie Nicks also in that season?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And then of course you had the whole thing with Zachary Quinto and Bloody Face, which was I think that might have
No,
been my
because it was like the horror nun. There was a
no.
horror.
I don't think she was
I'm
in there. Um,
boy.
but
I'm about to.
there was the whole thing with like Bloody Face and Zachary Quinto, which I think was my favorite of the storylines. because I liked how manipulative he was and how much he kept it hidden, how innocent he played it off, and I thought that was really interesting.
That wasn't. It was
Um,
Lily Rabe. She
yeah,
was
Lily Rabe
married.
was Sister Mary Margaret.
Yeah.
Um, the only thing that draws me back now from leaving it at number one is the whole thing with the aliens. Because it would like randomly appear and then disappear, and honestly I would forget that there was a whole thing about aliens until like they appeared again. I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, that's right, there's aliens in this one too.
Yeah. That was a little thing that was a little forgettable
Yeah,
about it, but
but outside of that, it's a great season. It's it's just amazing like story, like not just in the sense of American Horror Story, but just like in the sense of just a TV show in general. It was really
yeah,
well made. So yeah, like that's why it's at my number two.
mm,
If those aliens weren't there, it would have been my number one.
that's fair. My number two,
What's your number two?
1984.
Oh,
Yeah, 1984. I mean, it was my number one, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, um, but 1984. It's great. It's fantastic. The visuals are awesome. It definitely derives back to like the slasher phase that everybody was having. The serial killers that were on the loose. Obviously, not referring to Richard Ramirez. We already
yeah.
talked about that. But like they obviously highlight other killings that were happening, other than the one that I forgot the name of the killer in 1984. Mind you, it's been a year since I last watched it. But the guy that collects ears, trying to prove his innocence. But I do feel like 1984 kind of copycatted something. I liked the concept that if you die on the camp, you stay on there, and then the ghosts kind of get to mess with you. But I feel like it's also a very similar concept that we already seen in
In Murder House.
Murder House. But yeah, it was a little redundant
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like once that season where we are revealed who killed the protagonist, and then she comes back a year later, so it's like 1985 now. Even though it's very concentrated in 1984, we like it would have been a perfect ending if it just ended there, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, call it a short season or whatever. But I still enjoyed it. I liked it purely for how genuinely aesthetic this whole like the set design, the costuming, just the way that people acted, and also like referring back to like the whole like going to the summer, don't have sex, this and that, and
Yeah.
it's the same shit as like from the slashers, like the principles, it's the rules of horror at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have that like
Don't
always
have
like
sex. Don't do drugs.
don't
Don't
do drugs, don't
separate.
drink alcohol, like babysit a kid, make sure you're actually watching them, not like doing whatever. And it's obviously Jason. It's a Jason concept, or like
Yeah,
Friday the
it's
13th,
Friday the
but
13th
it's
meets
very different.
Halloween because of the whole thing where he escapes from an asylum.
Yeah, so I like that. I genuinely like that because it's like my favorite elements in one. It's like I
Mm.
love it. So then, but that's besides the point. Yeah, that's
Okay.
my
Yeah.
number two.
Yeah, like I said, I just have my issues with it, but it's not terrible or anything.
And the opening is fucking bomb.
Oh, I do like the opening to it. Yeah.
I vibed. I was like, oh shit, like let's go. And then like me with my synthwave bullshit, like, and then that shit inspired me to like redo my entire room after I was done with 1984. So it's
That was
like
a huge inspiration.
it was a huge inspiration.
Oh, but it's time to reach the end of the road. We already know what my number one is going to be, and that is going to be Coven.
Mm,
Coven is just a perfect season. Like there is
it
nothing I
is.
dislike about Coven at all. You have all these great characters, all these amazing witches with their own crazy personalities, with their own like
Unique
quirks and
powers.
faults. Their powers are crazy.
Yeah.
Fucking Jessica Lange as the Supreme. Holy shit.
It's a very intense
What
performance.
what a performance. She was cold, calculating. She was a killer. Was not afraid to do what she needed to do to stay in power. Like, mad respect. And again, I can't mention Jessica Lange, or not Jessica Lange, I'm sorry.
Jessica Lange.
Angela Bassett enough. I cannot mention how amazing she was in this enough. And we can't even forget about racist Kathy Bates.
Yeah,
And
yo,
how they almost got her to like repent for her actions, but the last second she was like, "Fuck that shit! I'm a racist and I'm proud."
oh damn. Yeah, I remember I saw that scene and I was like, "Oh shit, this is very intense."
Yeah,
I was like, "She's just acting. She's just acting."
and don't forget too about like the whole thing with like the Minotaur. That
Yeah,
shit was creepy too. I'm telling you, man,
I
that whole
enjoyed that. I
yeah.
enjoyed that. It's just because that's a thing that's like referred to in lore. You
Mm-hmm.
know, being fucked
Yeah,
by
like
a minotaur, having like a damned you know,
mm-hmm.
I
Like
forgot what
even
it's called when they're bastard. Yeah, bastard.
yeah. I just talking about this season. I'm already like I've got like a huge smile because I'm just thinking about like the fun stuff. Like I loved Missy Day. She was just so
Yeah,
hippie and like free and stuff. I don't remember her character's name, but like that lady with the red hair, that was like super fashionista.
yeah. She
That loved to
gets
play the
burned.
theremin. Myrtle, that's who it was.
Myrtle.
That loved to play the theremin. Just like the quirkiest things. But yeah, again, even like talking about the show, just while we mention it, like in the back of my head, I have like the song stuck in my head from the end credits, the little na 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 na. I don't know. It's stuck in my head again.
Yeah, like I think I was on TikTok not too long, like not that long ago, but it
Mm-hmm.
was like maybe towards the end of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I came across the profile of the girl who actually sings it. She's actually a very
Oh, that's
underrated
cool.
artist on TikTok. So it was just like I was like, damn, like like they're really like not really giving her any credit for like her. I mean, not that she cares because she does that for a living. She
Yeah.
writes songs for like series and other artists and all that stuff. So, like as we all know that artists don't really sometimes just write their songs
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So yeah, I thought that was super interesting. And the fact that like I said, like Coven has a really nice bow, and we like the fact that Jessica Lange is the supreme, but then there's eventually going to be a witch that surpasses her.
Yep.
So, like with the death of man, I forgot her name. The one that's played by the one that's always a bitch. I
Emma
forget. She always
Roberts.
Emma Roberts. Yeah, like she dies, and then it's like it all comes down to the next supreme,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy. Like you go into this wild journey, seeing them all grow, die, all that stuff. Especially like I feel like the most emotional. It was somewhat emotional, but it was the most emotional for me is like when we see Myrtle die because that old lady has done nothing wrong. She was rad
Yeah.
as fuck, and
It was not
they
her.
decided
It's
to
not her
burn
fault
her.
that Jessica Lange was. It's awful to her.
Yeah, didn't mean it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Coven is definitely it's it's a beautiful
Oh, yeah.
season.
It's a tremendous season.
Yeah, not as beautiful as my number one.
Okay. What is your number one?
Hotel.
I can see. I
Um,
can see it. Like I said,
yeah,
Hotel was a whole vibe.
yeah. Hotel is the fact that like again, I'm a sucker for a really good location. Yes, Murder House was great. Also, the mansion in Coven also beautiful. But the fact that they were able to transform this not rut of a restaurant because it looks nice, but you would never think that that was never a hotel to begin
Mm-hmm.
with.
Because
And
it's very
and
well disguised as a hotel.
yeah, and the fact that they, were able to pull that off, it gave me the Shining vibes. And plus, with all the true crime stuff that kind of happens behind that, and then like I also like the fact that there's some of those people in the hotel can never leave
Mm-hmm.
because they're dead and that kind of thing. So you see different things that you didn't think that you would see in a hotel that would stay there, especially like the maintenance guy that always has like the kind of crooked eyeliner, but he's like such a rad
Oh
character.
yeah.
Yeah, and then like there's of course what was it? I'm Peters. Peter? Evan
Evan
Peters.
Peters.
Wow. I'm awful with names. Clearly. But yeah, Evan Peters' character was really well written. The protagonist for American Horror Story, which is the cop that it turns into the Ten Commandments killer, which he doesn't realize that he's doing the killings. It's almost like a sleepwalking kind of
Yeah.
killing kind of thing. So I thought that was like super unique. I will agree that the Lady Gaga side of things is weak,
Yeah.
but like it could be easily surpassed because she's kind of like a vampiristic cannibal like mom because she knows that she can because it's not really clear if she died. It's kind of like a vampiric cannibal esque part, but we only see that
Hmm.
really in the beginning and in some parts because
Yeah.
we don't see her drink blood or eat anybody. She just likes
Yeah.
killing them and licking their blood. It's
Oh,
almost cannibalistic in another way. And then she has like the tendencies of a mother that she wants to like,
have
you know,
children.
have children, and like you kind of grow a little bit of pity for her. And then of course Kathy Bates at the end, like with the song coming out and she has the gun. It's like that shit was fucking banger. Like I was like, all right, but there's just a lot going on. I like how the fact that they included killers from the past is he's like talking to them because this is a very contradicting thing. This is a character that is a cop
Hmm.
and he's doing these killings. He doesn't realize until he's too late and he's talking to Evans Peters' character. And then he invites him to dinner. Then he sees the other like serial killers that have existed even before him.
Yeah.
So
Which I
it's
thought was
kind of like
really,
really cool.
a really cool concept because the whole when you realize that they're actually all connected because they're all trying to like live up to the legacy of the Ten Commandments killer. They just did it their own way.
Yeah.
Like you realize that they were all trying to do the same thing. So that just like makes it so much different.
Yeah, I just felt like it was like the Last Supper, but for serial killers.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it
or
was a
like a high
very
school
unique.
reunion almost too.
Yeah. The one thing I will say that I did not understand, it was a little unclear. Like, I love that season to death, but it's a little unclear why we gotta have a demon, like an iron pointy cock.
Oh yeah, the
Try-
dude with
Like,
the
that was super random. I
with
was like,
the
I still fully don't understand where this guy came from.
with the corkscrew dick.
Yeah. He's like, tell me you love me. And it's like the guy that's say it again. Like Sarah Paulson
Terrifying.
was now I think that was like her pretty solid performance. I
It
really
was, yeah.
like.
She was like really. I love that they solved her problems by giving her Twitter.
Yeah.
Like that solved all of her issues. They're like, here's Twitter, and then she became like super popular
Yeah.
and got everything
That's
she ever
so
wanted. I love
funny.
that. I love that so much.
It's funny.
It's hilarious.
Sarah Paulson's character, the original like Twitter cancel like culture. But yeah, that was my number one hotel.
My number one was
Coven would
Coven.
have been up there too, but
Yeah.
I couldn't. But 1984 just came along and decided to stomp on bitches, like for me.
So we had some disagreements. We didn't disagree as much as I thought we were going to actually.
Yeah,
Like or I would say we didn't get as
wholeheartedly, I would argue with you. Like I was like,
yeah, I think that's like the
it's not
biggest
good.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, but outside of that, we're on relatively the same page for a good amount of them.
yeah,
That's not bad.
yeah. I it makes me want to go back and watch them to see if I'm just being
Same,
a little too
honestly.
harsh now. But right now I'm just kind of really invested in Stranger Things. I'm almost done.
Oh, I finished
Then
Stranger Things.
after
It
that,
was so good. Oh my god.
it's Game of Thrones for me. Well, let's see how
Oh
long that lasts.
yeah, no,
Um,
I'm on the whole Kenobi train right now, and that last episode was insanity as well.
I heard Kenobi wasn't that good. Like,
Oh no, Kenobi has been tremendous. It's only been 3 episodes out of the 6, but I'm already invested 100%. I'm like, I need more. Like as soon as I finish watching the last episode, I'm gonna start watching it again. That's how much fun I've had with it.
That's
Man.
good then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I believe that is the end of this episode here. We counted down some American Horror Story stuff. We talked about Evan Peters, Jessica Lange, Sarah Paulson, Billy Lord, and that whole ensemble of people.
Yeah.
Um,
Iconic.
icons, so many
Truly.
icons. So yeah, that's really all we got for you. So before we leave, we got to do our housekeeping. So as we all know, we have our own thing going on. So Vania, if you'd like to start, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and YouTube under AJGen Cultus. I shit talk a lot on Twitter about the AJGen community, but I love you guys a lot. Just let's try to make it a nice spooky season. Let's all be excellent to each other. And I do makeups and like things based off of Universal Monsters and HHN things, and keeping update with HHN stuff. Tend to update that pretty often on my Twitter, whenever I have the time. But yeah, but there's other cool people on this podcast. So Yusuf, where can we find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at itbeyusef and on Instagram at Yusef1220. I'm usually just active on Twitter the most because I just shitpost ridiculous, stupid shit. Um, and then for our podcast, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That's our socials, as Sounds from the Grave. And then for the podcast itself, we are just about anywhere. So we're on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere that you can get a podcast, we're there. Um, and we also have our email, Sounds from the Grave podcast at gmail.com. So if you guys ever want to drop us a line there, you're more than welcome to do so.
Please do.
But yeah, that's really all we got. I want to
Yeah.
thank you guys again for listening to us. Be idiots.
Yeah, we just like to shit talk and talk
Yeah.
about things that we have opinions on, but
Exactly. But yeah, so that's really all we got. So we bid you guys a good day or good night whenever you're listening to this, and that you stay spooky.
stay spooky.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.